Imagine if the history we know was only a chapter, not the beginning of Earth's story. What if long before us, another civilization walked, built, and dreamed under the same skies? Legends, ruins, and unanswered questions whisper of forgotten ages buried in time. Perhaps they vanished, leaving only faint echoes in stone, myth, and memory. And now we ask, what if the first Earth civilization was not us at all? Imagine for a moment that our history is only a fraction of the real story. We are told that human civilization has existed for about 10,000 years. Cities, writing, culture, and technology arising after the last ice age. But what if this was not the beginning? What if far before the pyramids rose in Egypt, long before Mesopotamia laid down its clay tablets, there had been another civilization, a people who built, dreamed, and vanished, leaving behind almost nothing? It is a haunting idea that the Earth itself has a forgotten memory, a buried layer of history erased by time. When we look at the ruins of our known past, we see how fragile civilization can be. Consider ancient cities swallowed by jungles, hidden for centuries. Angkor Wat in Cambodia was once the center of a vast empire, but after its fall, the forest claimed it. Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley thrived thousands of years ago, only to be forgotten until archaeologists dug its bricks from the soil. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey lay buried for over 10,000 years before its circles of stone were revealed to us. If entire cities of stone can vanish within a few thousand years, how much more could disappear if we look back tens of thousands, or even millions of years? Could traces of a civilization older than all these have already been erased beyond recognition? The Earth is not a gentle keeper of history. Our planet is alive, constantly reshaping itself. Wind and rain wear away mountains. Rivers carry silt and bury valleys. Oceans rise and fall, hiding entire coastlines. Earthquakes shatter the land. Volcanoes bury it in ash, and glaciers grind it to dust. Even the continents themselves drift, tearing open oceans and swallowing land. In 100,000 years, the fingerprints of a culture could be erased. In 1,000,000 years, perhaps nothing recognizable would remain. If there had been cities before us, they could lie beneath oceans, under miles of rock, or lost in deserts. Their monuments, if they built them, might now be unrecognizable stones, mistaken for natural formations. Some scientists point to the silence of geology and archaeology as proof there were no civilizations before ours. Yet others remind us how incomplete the record is. Fossils are rare, ruins rarer still. We only know what has survived by chance. Imagine, for instance, if all of humanity disappeared today. Our skyscrapers might last a few thousand years at most before crumbling. Our steel would rust, our glass would break, and our roads would vanish under forests. In 10 million years, only fragments, fossils of plastic, perhaps a trace of radiation from our nuclear plants, would testify that we were ever here. Could the same be true for a civilization that came long before us? One erased so completely that we see only shadows and wonder if they were ever real. This possibility becomes even more mysterious when we consider ancient myths. Stories from different cultures speak of golden ages, lost lands, and floods that wiped out entire peoples. The tale of Atlantis, first told by Plato, describes a mighty civilization swallowed by the sea. Ancient Indian texts speak of cities of the gods, destroyed in fire and battles that sound eerily like wars of great technology. The Popol Vuh of the Maya recalls earlier creations of humanity, attempts that failed before the current age. Are these just stories, or are they faint echoes of real civilizations now forgotten? It is tempting to think myths are memories carried across generations, distorted but rooted in truth. Even the ground beneath our feet holds secrets we have not yet uncovered. We dig and find stone tools, pottery, and bones, but what if we are looking in the wrong places or the wrong layers? Much of the ocean floor remains unexplored, and it is possible that entire coastlines where early civilizations might have thrived are now underwater. During the last ice age, sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, exposing vast tracts of land that are now hidden beneath waves. If a civilization existed then, its ruins would not be on land but on the ocean floor, waiting to be discovered or already lost to time. The thought that we might not be the first civilization is both humbling and unsettling. It forces us to ask, are we truly unique, or just the latest in a cycle of rise and fall that Earth has seen many times before? Some researchers even suggest that advanced civilizations might rise, fall, and vanish regularly on planets across the universe. Life may bloom, grow intelligent, build wonders, and then collapse under war, disaster, or the weight of its own technology. Perhaps Earth itself has seen this cycle not once, but many times. If such civilizations did exist, what ended them? Was it war, as myths suggest? Was it natural disaster? An asteroid impact? A supervolcano? A sudden shift in climate? History teaches us how fragile we are. A single catastrophe can end entire ways of life. The eruption of Vesuvius erased Pompeii in a day. The Black Death swept across Europe and shattered medieval society. Imagine an even greater disaster. A strike from space, a flood that drowned continents, or a chain of volcanic winters. If an ancient people once walked the earth, they might have fallen in ways we can barely imagine, their traces washed away with their memory. Still, the idea stirs our imagination. We look at strange ancient structures, pyramids, stone circles, megaliths, and wonder if they hold secrets older than history tells us. Could some of them be echoes of knowledge passed down from earlier ages, fragments of a wisdom not our own? Göbekli Tepe, with its intricate carvings and massive stones, was built by people who supposedly had no cities, no writing, no metal. How did they achieve it? Some say it points to a lost inheritance, a memory from a time before recorded history, perhaps even from a civilization erased. When you close your eyes and think of the forgotten earth, it is easy to imagine. Cities of stone and glass, standing proud under suns that shone thousands of millennia ago. Ships sailing across ancient seas, machines humming with strange power, voices raised in languages now silent. And then silence. The seas rising, the winds erasing, the earth reclaiming what was hers. We walk the same ground, breathe the same air, but we do not remember. The earth keeps its secrets well. Perhaps one day we will uncover undeniable proof. A fossilized fragment of technology older than we thought possible. A city deep beneath the waves, or patterns in geology that cannot be explained by chance. Until then, the forgotten earth remains a story half told. It whispers to us from myths, from strange ruins, from the silence of the rocks. And it asks us a question we cannot yet answer. Were we really the first? Or are we only the latest in a long line of dreamers who once called this planet home? The earth speaks in stone. For those who listen closely, the rocks and monuments scattered across our planet carry whispers of a past we cannot fully explain. We are taught that history began only a few thousand years ago, but the stones often seem to tell a different story. They stand as silent witnesses, shaped by human hands in ways that defy the limits of their time. Were these simply the achievements of ancient ingenuity, or do they hint at knowledge inherited from something older, perhaps even from a forgotten civilization that once walked the earth before us? Consider the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Rising from the desert sands, they are among the most studied structures in the world. And yet, their full story remains a mystery. The stones are massive, some weighing more than 80 tons, and were moved across long distances without wheels or iron tools, according to conventional history. The alignment of the pyramids with the stars, particularly Orion's belt, suggests astronomical precision far beyond what we credit to the people of that time. Were these monuments built purely by the Egyptians, or could they have drawn upon knowledge passed down from an earlier age, from people whose own records were lost to time? Travel across the world to South America, and the questions deepen. In Peru, the walls of Sacsayhuaman rise above the city of Cusco. The stones here are enormous, some larger than cars, yet they fit together with such precision that not even a knife blade can slip between them. How could people without modern machinery achieve this? The official story says it was the work of the Inca, but even the Inca themselves spoke of an earlier people, a civilization that existed before them, who had knowledge and power that they no longer understood. Were the Inca remembering their ancestors, or remembering someone else entirely? Farther south, on the shores of Lake Titicaca, lies the site of Pumapunku. Here, massive blocks of stone are cut with angles and grooves so sharp that they resemble machine work. These stones, made of hard andesite, would challenge even modern tools to shape with such precision. And yet they lie scattered, as if toppled by a great force long ago. If these were the works of a known ancient culture, then where are the tools, the records, the evidence of their techniques? Or is Pumapunku instead a fragment of something even older, a sign written in stone by hands we no longer remember? In Turkey, Göbekli Tepe pushes history back further than anyone expected. Its massive stone circles, carved with images of animals, date to around 11,000 years ago, long before cities or farming were thought to exist. By all logic, a society of hunters and gatherers should not have been able to build something so complex. Yet there it stands, the stones carefully shaped and positioned, as if guided by a knowledge not usually attributed to such early people. Some researchers believe Göbekli Tepe was a ceremonial site, others that it was a center of community life. But another possibility lingers, that it was a remnant of knowledge from a time before, knowledge preserved through catastrophe and carried into a new age by survivors. The stones also tell stories through alignment. Across the world, many ancient sites are aligned with celestial bodies, solstices, equinoxes, stars, and planets. Stonehenge in England, Newgrange in Ireland, Chaco Canyon in North America, and countless others all point toward the skies. Why? Were these simply religious observances, or were they calendars, meant to preserve knowledge of time, seasons, and cycles that were vital for survival? Or could they have been even more? Echoes of a time when humanity had already studied the stars, already mapped the heavens, and sought to pass that knowledge forward in ways that would endure even when writing was lost? There are also places where natural geology and human construction blur together. The Yonaguni Monument, off the coast of Japan, lies beneath the sea. Its step terraces, sharp angles, and flat plains look man-made, though some scientists argue it could be a natural formation. If it is natural, it is a strange one, resembling a sunken city. If it is artificial, it is even stranger, for it lies under the ocean, suggesting it was built when sea levels were far lower, at least 12,000 years ago. That would place it long before any known civilization. Could Yonaguni be another sign written in stone, left behind by a forgotten people who lived before the oceans rose? The mysteries are not only in how the stones were placed, but also in what they say. Carvings, engravings, and symbols appear across the world, sometimes in places that should have had no connection. Spirals, suns, stars, and geometric patterns appear in petroglyphs from different continents. Were these simply universal symbols drawn by cultures separated by time and distance, or were they fragments of a shared memory, something passed down from a civilization that spanned more of the globe than we think possible? When we look at these repeating patterns, we are tempted to see not coincidence but connection. Skeptics argue that all of these mysteries can be explained by human ingenuity, that given time and determination, ancient people could achieve wonders without needing lost civilizations. And perhaps that is true. But even so, why do so many of these sites feel as if they are deliberately hiding something? Why do they often appear older than expected, more precise than they should be, more advanced than their time allows? If there was once a civilization before ours, one erased by the earth itself, the stones may be the only record they could leave behind, messages carved to survive when everything else turned to dust. Imagine, then, that every mysterious monument we see is not just an achievement of its builders but also a clue. Imagine that the pyramids, the walls of Sacsayhuaman, the stones of Göbekli Tepe, the ruins of Pumapunku, and the carvings scattered across deserts and caves are all fragments of a story of a people who lived before us, who built and dreamed, who studied the stars and carved their knowledge into stone because they knew stone could endure. Perhaps they knew their time was ending. Perhaps they left these markers as a way of saying, "We were here, do not forget us. The earth has forgotten, but the stones remain." And as we study them, we are left with questions that history cannot yet answer. Were these wonders the work of cultures we know, or are they signs of something far older? If they are signs of a forgotten civilization, then they are more than ruins. They are voices from the deep past, written in the only language that can survive the turning of ages, the language of stone. The oceans cover more than 70% of our planet, yet we know less about them than we do about the surface of the moon. They are vast, dark, and silent, at least silent to us. But beneath the waves, in the crushing depths where sunlight has never reached, the Earth keeps secrets. And some believe these secrets may include traces of civilizations lost to time, swallowed by rising seas and shifting continents. If the first civilization was not us, then perhaps the oceans are where its ruins now rest, hidden in the silence of the deep. When we think of lost worlds beneath the sea, one name rises immediately: Atlantis. For thousands of years, the story of a great island civilization that vanished beneath the waves has haunted human imagination. Plato described Atlantis as a powerful society that grew arrogant, challenged the gods, and was destroyed in a single day and night of catastrophe. Scholars debate whether this was allegory or memory, myth or history. But what if the myth was inspired by something real? What if Atlantis, or something like it, truly existed, not in Plato's time, but in an age far older, before the dawn of written history? The evidence for lost civilizations in the oceans is not easy to prove, yet strange hints keep surfacing. Off the coast of India lies the Gulf of Khumbat, where sonar scans in the early 2000s revealed structures deep underwater. Divers found artifacts and tools embedded in the seabed, suggesting that a city might have existed there, one that would be more than 9,000 years old. If true, this city would predate all known civilizations, raising the possibility that advanced societies once thrived along coastlines before the seas rose at the end of the last ice age. Rising waters would have swallowed entire landscapes, erasing them from memory and leaving only whispers of their existence. And the oceans have risen dramatically. At the peak of the last ice age, sea levels were over 400 feet lower than they are today. Entire regions of land, now drowned beneath the waves, were once plains, forests, and valleys where people could have lived. Places like Doggerland, a vast landmass that once connected Britain to mainland Europe, are now underwater. Archaeologists have found tools, bones, and traces of settlement there, preserved beneath the seabed. If such lands were once home to thriving communities, then countless others may lie hidden beneath the oceans, waiting to be discovered. Beyond the known coastlines, there are strange formations that continue to puzzle scientists and explorers. The Yonaguni Monument in Japan, mentioned earlier, looks like a sunken city with steps, terraces, and walls. Some argue it is natural. Others insist it is man-made. If it is the latter, it means an advanced culture built it more than 12,000 years ago, before rising seas drowned the region. Similar underwater structures have been reported in the Caribbean, near Cuba, and the Bahamas, where sonar has detected massive blocks arranged in geometric patterns. Could these be remnants of a forgotten world, a real Atlantis scattered across the seas? The silence of the ocean also hides mysterious sounds. The bloop, a low-frequency noise recorded by NOAA in 1997, was so powerful that it was detected by sensors thousands of miles apart. Scientists later suggested it might have been caused by icebergs cracking, but others have wondered, could it have been something else, something artificial, a signal from deep beneath the sea? The oceans carry sound farther than air, and if a lost civilization had ever existed there, perhaps their technology or their ruins still whispers in ways we do not yet understand. But the mystery is not only in ruins and sounds, it is also in legends. Almost every ancient culture has stories of floods. The Bible tells of Noah. Mesopotamian myths speak of Utnapishtim. In India, the god Vishnu warns of rising waters. In Mesoamerica, the gods destroy worlds with floods. These stories, separated by continents, all share a memory of waters rising and washing away what came before. Were these simply myths of nature's fury, or were they echoes of a real event, when oceans swallowed entire civilizations and left survivors to carry their stories into new ages? If an advanced civilization had once thrived on Earth, it would make sense for them to settle along coastlines as we do today. Coastlines provide food, trade routes, and fertile land. But coastlines are also fragile. When the Ice Age ended and glaciers melted, seas rose relentlessly, submerging those very centers of life. If the first great cities of humankind or of another civilization were built by the shore, then they now lie hundreds of feet underwater, erased from the surface of history. To find them, we would need to explore the depths of the oceans, a task more challenging than reaching the stars. Exploration of the deep sea remains limited. Less than 10% of the ocean floor has been mapped in detail. The rest remains a vast unknown, a darkness that may hide ruins, monuments, and cities beyond our imagination. What if, one day, as our submarines and sonar probe deeper, we uncover a temple, a road, or a statue lying forgotten beneath the waves? Such a discovery would not only rewrite history, but also confirm that the ocean's silence has been keeping humanity's oldest secret. Imagine, then, a forgotten city lying beneath the Pacific, its towers broken but still standing, its streets covered in coral, its walls etched with symbols we can no longer read. Imagine divers shining their lights on a temple floor and realizing they are not the first to stand there, but the last in a long chain of civilizations. Imagine the ocean itself as a vast museum, holding the wreckage of a time when humanity was not alone on this planet, or perhaps when another kind of humanity walked before us. The oceans are silent, yes, but silence is not the absence of truth. It is the waiting of truth, the holding of it in depths we have not yet reached. And in those depths, in the darkness and pressure where no sunlight falls, the ruins of a forgotten civilization may still lie. If the first civilization was not us, then the oceans are where we will find them, not in books, not in deserts, but beneath the endless silence of the sea. For as long as humans have walked the earth, we have looked up at the sky with wonder. The stars have guided our journeys, inspired our myths, and shaped our sense of time. But what if, hidden within those shimmering patterns above, there are messages left behind, not by us, but by an earlier civilization? What if the sky itself carries a code, a signal, or a memory that points to the truth that we were not the first to call this planet home? Imagine the night sky thousands of years ago, before cities, before electricity. The heavens stretched in dazzling clarity, stars so bright they cast faint shadows on the ground. Ancient people saw order in the chaos, drawing lines between the stars to create constellations. These patterns became stories: Orion the Hunter, the Great Bear, the Pleiades. But what if these constellations were not simply stories? What if they were fragments of a much older language, a map written in the stars by a civilization we have forgotten? There are strange consistencies in star lore across cultures. The Pleiades, a small cluster of stars, are recognized in myths from Greece to Japan to the Americas. Why would civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, all choose the same cluster as significant? Some suggest it is simply coincidence, a natural attraction to a bright group of stars. But others wonder, did all these cultures inherit the memory of the Pleiades from an earlier source, a mother civilization that once spanned the earth before vanishing into time? The alignments of ancient monuments deepen the mystery. The pyramids of Giza in Egypt, built thousands of years ago, line up with the 3 stars of Orion's belt. At the same time, temples in Central America, such as those built by the Maya, also reflect the positions of celestial bodies with astonishing accuracy. How did civilizations half a world apart, with no known contact, design structures that mirror the same stars? Was this simply the universal awe of the heavens, or was it the continuation of an older tradition, one passed down from a civilization that had already mastered the sky? Consider also the Nazca lines in Peru, massive geoglyphs carved into the desert floor, visible only from the air. Some are animals, some are shapes, and some point directly to positions of stars. For generations, people have debated why they were made. Were they offerings to gods, calendars, or could they have been messages, markers meant to be seen from above by beings who once flew the skies long before us? If another civilization had advanced knowledge, perhaps even the ability to soar into the air, then leaving sky messages would be their way of ensuring their presence was never forgotten. The sky itself may hold deeper codes. For decades, researchers have speculated about signals hidden in the stars, patterns of light or bursts of energy that might represent communication. In our own time, we search for extraterrestrial intelligence by listening to the sky. But what if we are not listening to aliens from distant galaxies? What if we are actually listening to echoes of Earth's first civilization, one that encoded its memory in the cosmos? A flicker of a star, a repeating pulse of a signal, a sudden burst of unexplained radio noise. These could all be their messages, waiting for us to notice. Legends across the world also speak of knowledge descending from the heavens. The Dogon people of Mali, for example, have ancient stories about a star that is invisible to the naked eye but real nonetheless. Sirius B, a white dwarf star orbiting Sirius. Western science confirmed its existence only in the 20th century, yet the Dogon knew about it centuries before. How did they know? Some suggest that their ancestors were taught by beings from the sky. But what if the truth is stranger? What if it was not visitors from another planet, but remnants of Earth's first civilization, who left their wisdom encoded in the stars, passed down as myth? The question of the sky as a library of memory takes us further. If you were a civilization facing extinction by flood, by fire, by shifting continents, how would you preserve your knowledge? Carvings can erode, books can burn, cities can sink, but the stars endure. If you encoded your legacy in the alignments of monuments, in the myths tied to constellations, in the very stories people tell about the night sky, then your memory would survive even when your cities did not. Perhaps that is why so many cultures across the globe tell of gods and teachers who came from the stars or returned to the heavens. These are not just myths, they are sky messages. And yet, the silence of the stars is as puzzling as the silence of the oceans. If there are messages above us, why have we not clearly decoded them? Perhaps the messages are hidden in plain sight, disguised as myth and geometry, waiting for the right perspective to reveal them. Or perhaps we are still too young to understand, like children staring at letters without realizing they form words. What we see as random constellations may, in fact, be an ancient script, one that carries the memory of a time before us. Imagine, then, a world long forgotten, where people or beings stood beneath the same sky and decided to write their history not on stone, but in the stars. Imagine that when you trace Orion's belt or gaze at the Pleiades, you are not just looking at stars, but at fragments of their story. Imagine that every monument aligned with the heavens, from the pyramids to Stonehenge, is a chapter in a book written across the sky. And imagine that one day, when we finally learn how to read it, we will discover that we are not the beginning of Earth's story, but only the continuation. The stars shine with ancient light. Some of it began its journey long before humans existed, long before even our earliest ancestors walked the earth. That light carries more than warmth and beauty. It carries memory. And in those memories, hidden among myths and alignments, may lie the messages of a civilization lost to time, whispering across the ages for us to finally hear. All across the world, colossal stones rise out of the earth, silent but commanding, like guardians of forgotten knowledge. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the massive walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, from Stonehenge in England to the megalithic temples of Malta, we find monuments built of stone so heavy, so perfectly placed, that even today they challenge our understanding. Who were the builders? And more importantly, how did they achieve such impossible feats? Were these works truly the effort of ancient hands alone? Or do they bear the signature of a civilization far older, perhaps even one that predates us? Imagine standing before a single block at Baalbek in Lebanon. It is called the Stone of the South, and it weighs over 1,000 tons. To put that into perspective, that is the weight of about 200 elephants. Even with today's modern cranes and machinery, moving such a block would be a tremendous challenge. Yet there it lies, cut with precision, waiting as if it were once part of an even greater design. How did the builders of the ancient world, armed only with chisels and ropes, at least according to our history books, move such massive stones? Some argue it was brute labor and clever engineering. But what if it was something else entirely? What if these stones are the fingerprints of an earlier civilization with knowledge we no longer possess? The pyramids of Giza offer a similar riddle. Each stone block can weigh several tons, and there are more than 2 million of them. The alignment of the Great Pyramid is so precise that it faces true north within a fraction of a degree. To achieve such accuracy today would require advanced instruments, lasers, and satellites. Yet somehow, thousands of years ago, it was done with near perfection. Did the Egyptians accomplish this entirely on their own, or were they inheriting designs from a civilization that had mastered stone long before them? Legends of god kings and star beings who gave knowledge to the first builders might not be pure myth, but memory. Then there are the stones of Pumapunku in Bolivia, cut with such precision that razor blades can barely fit between them. These blocks interlock like pieces of a giant puzzle. Some even have complex grooves and drill holes, as if shaped with advanced tools. Archaeologists say it was the work of the Tiwanaku people, but even they admit the exact methods are unknown. Could it be that Pumapunku is not the beginning of stone engineering, but one of the last echoes of a lost civilization's technology? Stone is eternal in a way that wood, clay, and metal are not. Fires cannot consume it. Floods cannot wash it away. Time itself struggles to erase it. Perhaps that is why, if there truly was a first civilization before us, they would have chosen stone as their canvas. Not just to build homes or temples, but to leave behind proof. Proof that they were here, proof that they had mastered the art of shaping the very bones of the earth. And perhaps these stones were never meant to be shelters at all, but messages. A pyramid is not just a tomb, it is a statement. A stone circle is not just a calendar. It is a code. A wall of interlocking blocks is not just defense. It is a demonstration. The myths of giants might also take on new meaning here. Across cultures, from the Bible's Nephilim to the Titans of Greece, stories describe enormous beings who built mighty works. Could these be distorted memories of the stone engineers, beings, whether human or something else, who had the strength, knowledge, or tools to move mountains? If we dismiss the myth entirely, we risk ignoring a symbolic truth: that the builders were unlike ordinary men, that they were part of something beyond our comprehension. What is even more fascinating is the similarity of stone monuments across continents. Why would cultures separated by oceans, who supposedly never met, choose the same techniques, the same alignments, the same monumental style? Stonehenge in England, Nabta Playa in Egypt, and the medicine wheels of North America all align with the solstices. Massive pyramids rise not only in Egypt but also in Mesoamerica and even in China. Were these similarities just the natural result of humans observing the sky and building in stone? Or were they connected by a much deeper thread, a common origin, an earlier civilization whose influence rippled across the globe? Another haunting question is, why stone? If this earlier civilization was so advanced, why not metal, glass, or something more complex? The answer may be simple. Metal rusts, glass shatters, wood decays, but stone endures for millennia. Perhaps the stone engineers knew that if they wanted to be remembered, not decades or centuries later, but tens of thousands of years later, they had to build in a language the earth itself could preserve. And so, their message became stone, a message we still marvel at, but do not yet fully understand. Some researchers believe that the stone engineers encoded more than just memory in their works. They may have hidden knowledge in measurements, proportions, and alignments. The Great Pyramid, for instance, contains mathematical ratios that correspond to the dimensions of the Earth and even to the speed of light. Could this be coincidence? Or was it deliberate? A message carved into geometry waiting for us to discover? If so, then stone is not just the medium but the message itself. The silence of the stone engineers, like the silence of the oceans and the stars, is both haunting and profound. They left behind no books, no obvious records, no voices we can hear, only stones. Stones so massive, so precise, so enduring, that we cannot dismiss them as primitive. And maybe that is the point. Maybe their stones are their way of saying, "We were here, we were capable, and you who come after us must ask why." Imagine, then, that one day humanity vanishes. Cities crumble, metal rusts, glass shatters. But thousands of years later, explorers find only the great works of stone. Our monuments, our stone-carved statues, our massive dams and bridges. What would they conclude? That we were primitive? That we had nothing more than stone? Or would they sense, as we now do when we stand before Baalbek, Pumapunku, or the pyramids, that behind those stones was something far greater, something we have only begun to rediscover? Perhaps the stone engineers are not just a mystery of the past, but a challenge for the present. They force us to question the neat lines of history, to accept that we may not be the first to climb the ladder of civilization. They remind us that stone remembers, even when all else is forgotten. And if we learn to listen, not just to the weight of the stone, but to the message carved within, we may uncover not only the story of those who came before, but also a glimpse of what we ourselves might one day become. The stones wait. They have always waited. And within their silent wait may lie the key to the greatest secret of all, that the first Earth civilization was not us. Beneath the world's oceans lie secrets older than any civilization we know. Quiet ruins rest on the seabed, cloaked in darkness and silence. Their stones eroded by waves, but still standing as reminders of something that once thrived where today only fish swim. Legends speak of great cities swallowed by water: Atlantis, Mu, Lemuria. For centuries, they were dismissed as myths, stories told around firelight to explain the unknown. But in recent decades, diverse satellites and sonar scans have revealed something startling: vast underwater structures that look suspiciously like the remains of lost cities. And suddenly, the myths don't seem so impossible anymore. Imagine standing on a boat above the waters near Japan's Yonaguni Island. The waves crash against the rocks, but below the surface lies something extraordinary. A massive, terraced structure with wide steps, sharp corners, and flat platforms, all cut into solid stone. Divers describe it as a sunken city, complete with roads and pillars. Some argue it is natural, the result of erosion. But when you see its staircases rising like giant steps, when you trace the angles of its walls, it is hard not to imagine hands, ancient hands, shaping it. Could Yonaguni be a memory of a civilization erased by the rising seas? This idea grows even more compelling when we consider Earth's past. At the end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago, massive sheets of ice covering much of the planet began to melt. Sea levels rose by more than 100 meters, drowning coastlines that once stretched far into the oceans. Entire landscapes disappeared beneath the waves, along with any settlements that may have been built there. If advanced civilizations had flourished along those coasts, their ruins would now lie underwater, hidden from history. Perhaps Atlantis is not a single city, but a symbol for hundreds of lost civilizations swallowed by the rising seas. The city of Dvarka in India may be one of them. In the Gulf of Khumbat, explorers using sonar discovered symmetrical structures buried beneath the mud, walls, grids, and artifacts that suggest an ancient urban settlement. Local legends long told of Dvarka, the golden city of Lord Krishna, which was swallowed by the sea thousands of years ago. For centuries, it was dismissed as myth. But when divers brought up pottery, beads, and carvings from the seabed, the myth began to look like memory. Could Dvarka be proof that ancient storytellers were not inventing fantasy, but preserving history of cities that once thrived where now only the ocean rules? Similar mysteries echo across the globe. Off the coast of Cuba, sonar scans revealed what appear to be geometric stone structures deep beneath the Caribbean. Near Malta, vast underwater stone blocks hint at temples older than those on land. Even in the Bahamas, strange formations known as the Bimini Road lie beneath the waves. Massive stone blocks arranged in lines, almost like a causeway. Are these natural formations, or remnants of something built by intelligent hands long before recorded history began? What makes these discoveries so haunting is not just the stones themselves, but the possibility of what they imply. If entire cities once flourished on now-drowned coastlines, then history as we know it is incomplete. The cradle of civilization may not have been in Mesopotamia 6,000 years ago, but on the lost shores of an older world. Civilizations that mastered stonework, astronomy, and engineering might have existed, only to be swallowed by the ocean's relentless rise. Their survivors, scattered across the world, may have carried fragments of knowledge, whispers of science, geometry, and myth that seeded the cultures we later call the first civilizations. This could explain why so many myths, from Plato's Atlantis to flood stories in the Bible, Sumerian texts, and Native American legends, all describe the same thing: a great civilization destroyed by water. In these myths, the sea is not just a force of nature, but a judge, a reset button that wipes the earth clean, leaving only fragments for future generations to rebuild. If those myths echo real events, then perhaps we are only the second or third chapter in a much longer book of human civilization. What if the lost cities beneath the waves were not just homes and temples, but also archives? Imagine structures designed not only for living, but for preserving knowledge. Stone libraries built to endure, even if abandoned. If such places exist, what secrets might they hold? Maps of the stars as they appeared tens of thousands of years ago. Records of forgotten sciences? Or even, as some suggest, evidence that humanity's story is not ours alone, but shared with visitors or teachers from beyond the earth. This last idea, though controversial, is not easily dismissed when you consider the precision and purpose of some underwater ruins. If the first Earth civilization was not us, could it be that what we are finding under the sea are the remains of a hybrid world, a world where humans or proto-humans lived alongside beings of greater knowledge? The myths of Atlantis speak of a people who became arrogant, misused their power, and were destroyed. Could those myths be a warning from the survivors of such a partnership gone wrong? Of course, skeptics argue that erosion, tectonic shifts, and natural rock formations can explain many of these sites. And sometimes they are right. Nature can mimic architecture, but not always. When you see blocks aligned in straight rows, when you see platforms shaped with symmetry, when you hear local legends speaking of sunken kingdoms, it becomes harder to dismiss. Science often demands proof, but history sometimes survives not in proof, but in patterns. And the pattern of lost cities beneath the waves is too consistent to ignore. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not whether these cities existed, but why we still haven't found more of them. After all, 70% of Earth is covered in water. We have mapped the surface of Mars more thoroughly than the depths of our own oceans. What secrets might still lie hidden beneath those waves? How many Atlantean cities still sleep in the darkness, waiting for us to rediscover them? And what would we do if we found one fully intact? Pillars, temples, even writing, preserved in the cold depths. Would we finally admit that we are not the first civilization, but only the most recent? The oceans are keepers of memory, hiding both beauty and tragedy. They swallowed the coastlines of the ancient world, but in doing so, they may also have preserved them. Beneath the waves, time moves differently. Sand covers, salt preserves, and silence guards. It is possible that the next great discovery in human history will not be in the sky above or the land we walk, but in the hidden cities beneath the sea. And if we find them, they may change everything we know about who built the first civilization on Earth, and whether that civilization was truly human. The waves whisper, the ruins wait, and the lost cities beneath the ocean still call to us. The question is, are we ready to listen? For as long as humans have told stories, myths and legends have been our way of remembering the past. Around fires, in temples, carved into stone, and whispered through generations, they carried warnings, wisdom, and wonders. Most see them as imagination, fantasy to explain the unknown. But what if myths are not inventions at all? What if they are coded memories, fragments of a forgotten history left behind by a civilization older than ours? Perhaps they are messages designed to outlast time, giving us clues about who came before us and what became of them. Take the story of the Great Flood. It appears in nearly every culture on Earth: Sumerian, Babylonian, Hebrew, Hindu, Native American, Chinese, and more. In each version, humanity is nearly wiped out by water. Survivors build boats, seek mountains, or are chosen by higher beings to preserve life. Why would so many different cultures, oceans apart, share the same story? Could it be because they all remembered the same event, the end of the Ice Age, when seas rose and swallowed coastlines, erasing entire civilizations? If so, then myths are not fables but archives, preserving the memory of global catastrophe. And if those survivors left us these stories, they may have been warning us. Civilizations rise and fall, and water is the great destroyer. Then there is the tale of Atlantis, perhaps the most famous lost civilization. Plato described it not as myth, but as history, a true account passed down through Egyptian priests. Atlantis was said to be a great empire with knowledge, technology, and power, destroyed in a single night by the sea. Many dismiss it as allegory. But what if it was memory? Plato's account may have been just one version of a much older tale, retold through generations. Across the world, legends echo the same theme: mighty kingdoms punished, destroyed, and swallowed by water. Atlantis may not be one city, but a symbol for many civilizations erased by the rising seas. But myths do more than describe destruction. They also hint at intervention. Nearly every culture speaks of gods or beings descending from the sky, teaching humanity agriculture, writing, astronomy, or law. In Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki bring knowledge. In Mesoamerican myths, the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl gives wisdom to the people. In India, the gods descend from the heavens with weapons of light. Are these simply metaphors, or do they record encounters with something beyond human? If Earth was designed, could these myths be fragments of the story, a memory of those who shaped us? Consider the Dogon tribe of Mali. Their myths describe a star system invisible to the naked eye, Sirius, along with its faint companion star, Sirius B. They knew of its orbit and density long before telescopes confirmed it. How did they know? Some say it was taught to them by sky beings, the Namo, who came from the stars. Myth? Coincidence? Or a surviving memory of contact with a knowledge far beyond their time? If true, then myths are not fairy tales but encrypted history. Even the Bible carries strange echoes of forgotten ages. In Genesis, the Nephilim are described as giants, the sons of God, who took human wives. Ancient texts like the Book of Enoch expand on this, describing beings who came from the heavens and gave humanity forbidden knowledge, metallurgy, astronomy, enchantments. They were punished, and their world destroyed by the flood. Strikingly similar stories appear in Mesopotamia, Greece, and beyond. If these tales are remnants of encounters with advanced beings, alien or otherwise, then myths may carry warnings about mistakes repeated throughout time. Legends also preserve clues in symbolic form. The Hindu texts speak of cyclical ages, the yugas, where civilizations rise, reach peaks of wisdom, then collapse into darkness before starting anew. The Mayans described similar cycles, their calendar marking world ages that end in fire, flood, or upheaval. Why would so many ancient people insist on cycles of destruction and rebirth? Perhaps because they remembered the fall of civilizations before them. If so, we may not be the first nor the last. Myths may be telling us, history is not a straight line, but a circle. Some go even further. What if myths are not just memories of the past, but messages planted for the future? Ancient monuments often align with the stars, their builders encoding knowledge in stone. The Great Pyramids of Egypt, the temples of Angkor, the city of Teotihuacan, all seem designed to preserve cosmic knowledge. Combined with myths, they create a language of memory, warning us to look up, to remember where we came from, and to prepare for what might return. Imagine, then, that myths are the voices of the first civilization, human or otherwise, echoing across time. They knew their world would fall. They knew memory would fade. So they wove their story into legend, hoping one day when we were ready, we would decode it. And perhaps now, as we begin to rediscover lost cities under the waves, as we look deeper into the cosmos, as we face rising seas once again, we are starting to understand. So when you hear myths of floods, gods, giants, or lost worlds, perhaps you are not hearing fantasy. Perhaps you are hearing the faint memory of a forgotten Earth, a civilization erased, yet still speaking through story. If so, then the question is no longer whether these myths are true, but whether we will listen before history repeats itself. Look up at the night sky. Stars burn in silence, planets drift, and galaxies swirl like cosmic whirlpools. To most of us, the sky is simply a canvas of beauty, vast and endless. But to our ancestors, the sky was not just decoration. It was a map, a code, and perhaps even a message. Across the world, ancient civilizations aligned temples, pyramids, and stone circles with the heavens. Why? Were they merely curious about the stars? Or were they following the blueprints of someone else, architects who taught them to look upward? Take the Great Pyramids of Egypt. For thousands of years, they have puzzled humanity. Not only are they perfectly aligned with the cardinal directions, but their layout mirrors the stars of Orion's belt. Ancient builders, with no modern technology, created monuments that align with the cosmos with uncanny precision. Was this just skill and observation? Or did they inherit knowledge from a forgotten people or something beyond human? To design in harmony with the skies suggests more than architecture. It suggests intent, purpose, and message. In Central America, the Maya built temples that act like celestial clocks. At Chichen Itza, during the equinox, the sun casts the shadow of a serpent slithering down the pyramid steps. In other sites, structures align with the rising of Venus, their morning star, which they believed guided cycles of time and fate. The builders were not guessing. They understood astronomy so deeply that their calendars rivaled modern ones. But where did such advanced knowledge come from? Did humans discover it on their own, or were they guided by teachers, the so-called sky gods of their legends? Stonehenge in England, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Angkor Wat in Cambodia, each is tied to the heavens. Ancient cultures separated by oceans all seem to build with one common obsession: the stars. Some researchers suggest this was because the stars were vital for farming, navigation, and survival. But others ask a bolder question: what if these monuments are not just practical but messages? What if they were designed to mirror the cosmos because their builders wanted to honor or communicate with the architects who came from above? Many myths describe beings descending from the skies and teaching humanity how to build, farm, and measure time. The Sumerians credited the Anunnaki. The Egyptians spoke of Thoth, the god of wisdom. The Maya told of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. The Greeks told of Prometheus, who gave fire and knowledge. Are these merely metaphors, or do they point to a deeper truth, that humanity was once guided by teachers, not of this earth? If Earth was designed, then these architects of the skies may have left behind both stories and structures to remind us. Consider also how the stars were seen not just as lights but as homes. Ancient people believed the gods lived among the constellations, visiting Earth from Orion, Sirius, or the Pleiades. Even today, indigenous groups around the world speak of ancestors from the stars. Why would so many cultures independently associate specific star systems with divine teachers? Perhaps because that was where their visitors truly came from. The mystery deepens when we realize that many monuments may serve as maps. The pyramids mirror Orion. Teotihuacan in Mexico mirrors the same constellation. Angkor Wat mirrors the constellation Draco. Why would civilizations across the globe create earthly mirrors of the sky? Perhaps they were marking origins, saying, "We came from there." If so, the monuments are not just tombs or temples, but signatures placed so future generations would never forget. Skeptics argue that all of this is coincidence, that humans naturally look up, and aligning with the stars is no miracle. But the precision is staggering. Without telescopes, ancient builders tracked celestial movements across centuries, calculating cycles with accuracy we only confirmed recently. The Mayan calendar could predict eclipses with modern-level precision. The builders of Stonehenge knew the exact solstices. Göbekli Tepe, built 12,000 years ago, encodes star maps that would not shift into those positions for thousands of years. This is not chance. It suggests memory or guidance. If Earth was designed, perhaps the designers wanted us to always look upward, to connect our world to the cosmos. By building monuments aligned with the stars, they tied Earth into the greater universe, reminding us that we are not separate but part of something vast. Perhaps they wanted us to understand our place, that Earth is not the beginning, but just one chapter in a cosmic story. And what of today? As we send satellites into orbit, rovers to Mars, and telescopes to the edge of the universe, are we becoming the new architects of the skies? Or are we only rediscovering a path already walked long ago? Maybe myths of gods descending from the stars are not just stories of the past but visions of the future. Reminders that one day, we too will cross the heavens and teach others what was once taught to us. So the next time you stand beneath a clear night sky, remember this: The stars above may not just be distant suns. They may be destinations, origins, or messages. And the monuments of stone that point to them may not be relics of superstition but blueprints left by the first designers of Earth, the architects of the skies. Every ruin holds a whisper. Every broken stone and half-buried temple carries a memory of what once was. When we look at the scattered remains of ancient civilizations, we see fragments of greatness. Cities planned with perfect geometry, stones carved with impossible precision, and stories of knowledge that feels far ahead of its time. But here is the haunting question. How much of that knowledge have we lost? And was it ever truly ours, or was it given to us by someone else? Take the pyramids again. Even today, engineers debate how such colossal monuments were built. The stones weigh tons, some quarried miles away. The joints are so precise that a piece of paper cannot slip between them. Did ancient builders possess tools and methods now forgotten, or did they inherit techniques from a more advanced civilization? Some argue that humanity once reached technological peaks, only for wars, floods, and time to bury them. Others suggest something stranger, that these were gifts from beings who walked with us long ago. Think of the Library of Alexandria, once the greatest collection of human knowledge. It is said to have held texts from across the ancient world: medicine, astronomy, engineering, even rumored secrets about the origins of Earth. When it burned, countless scrolls were lost forever. But what if within those scrolls were fragments of knowledge not of human invention, but records of teachings from before us, from civilizations erased or visitors from beyond? The idea that humanity once held answers but let them slip away makes the silence of history even heavier. Then there are the impossible objects. Baghdad batteries that could generate electricity thousands of years ago, Roman concrete that has survived for millennia while ours crumbles in decades, and maps like the Piri Reis chart showing coastlines of Antarctica long before it was officially discovered. Each artifact is a riddle, suggesting that what we call progress may only be rediscovery. Were these inventions human sparks of genius, or echoes of a knowledge passed down? Legends around the world speak of lost continents like Atlantis, Lemuria, or Mu, civilizations so advanced that they harness powers we cannot even replicate. They built with energy, controlled weather, and connected with the stars. When these worlds fell, through floods, quakes, or wars, their technologies vanished with them. Skeptics dismiss these tales as myths, but myths often hold truths wrapped in story. If Earth was designed, perhaps these lost civilizations were experiments, earlier attempts at humanity. Perhaps their failures were erased so ours could begin. The mystery of forgotten knowledge also extends to the skies. Ancient people tracked stars with precision, predicting eclipses and cycles long before modern science. How did they measure so accurately without telescopes or satellites? Did they inherit star charts from those who came before? Maps handed down through the ages by teachers who no longer walk the earth? Even in our own age, we stumble across forgotten brilliance. Recently, scientists re-examined ancient medical texts and discovered remedies effective against bacteria resistant to modern drugs. Old methods, dismissed as primitive, turn out to hold answers to problems of today. What else waits in ruins, untranslated or ignored, holding solutions we desperately need? If another civilization came before us or designed us, then perhaps their fingerprints are in these mysteries. The lost technologies are not accidents of history but breadcrumbs, clues left for us to find when we are ready. Imagine if the knowledge to create clean energy, cure diseases, or even travel to the stars already exists. Not in the future, but in the past, buried beneath sand and stone. And so, when we speak of lost technologies and forgotten knowledge, we are not just talking about broken tools or vanished scrolls. We are talking about the possibility that Earth itself was once a classroom, and we, the current students, are only rediscovering lessons long taught. What we call progress might just be memory resurfacing. The question remains, who were the teachers? Humans before us? Or the architects of Earth itself, those who designed not just stone and steel, but the very blueprint of civilization? The ruins remain silent, but they are not empty. They whisper. And if we listen closely, we may hear the echoes of the first civilization, the one that may not have been us. Every human carries within them a hidden library, written not in ink but in DNA. It is the story of who we are, where we came from, and perhaps who made us. When scientists study the genetic code, they find a timeline stretching back millions of years, linking us to every life form that ever walked, swam, or flew on Earth. But among the familiar patterns, there are gaps and anomalies, mysteries that make some wonder. What if humanity didn't simply evolve, but was designed? The theory of evolution tells us we share ancestors with apes, and the evidence is strong. But the leap from primitive hominids to modern humans feels startlingly fast. In a geological blink, brains tripled in size, language emerged, and art blossomed. Tools became advanced, fire was mastered, and societies formed. What caused such an explosive leap in intelligence and creativity? Some argue it was chance, others adaptation, but whispers in science and legend suggest something more. What if our DNA was tuned by outside hands? There are peculiar fragments in our genome, sequences whose origins are debated. Some scientists note that around 200,000 years ago, modern humans suddenly appeared with abilities far beyond their ancestors. Coincidentally, or perhaps not, many ancient myths describe gods who created man, shaping him from clay, stars, or divine essence. Were these just stories to explain existence, or veiled memories of an intervention, a time when beings from beyond Earth altered the path of evolution? Viruses, too, leave their mark on our DNA. Entire stretches of our genome are made of ancient viral code, as if we have been rewritten again and again. Could some of these insertions have been deliberate? Could they be signatures of genetic engineers from another time? Imagine a civilization far older than us, capable of designing life like a programmer designs software. To them, Earth might have been a laboratory and humanity a project. Our genetic puzzle also raises questions of compatibility. Unlike many species, humans have strange weaknesses: fragile spines, vulnerability to disease, difficult childbirth due to large brains. Some researchers have wondered, why would evolution create such flaws? Unless, of course, we were not fully shaped by natural forces alone. If outside beings adapted existing creatures into something new, perhaps these flaws are the cracks of hasty design. Then there is the mystery of consciousness. No strand of DNA explains why we dream, imagine, or feel wonder at the stars. Our minds seem wired not just for survival, but for curiosity, an insatiable hunger to understand the universe. Why? Evolutionary theory can't fully explain it. But if we were designed, curiosity might be the very key that pushes us to discover our origins, a breadcrumb left by our makers. Even religions echo this puzzle. Nearly every culture speaks of a time when humanity was created, uplifted, or taught. Some say we were molded from the dust of Earth, others that we descended from the stars. In both cases, the story suggests intention. Could it be that long before us, another civilization, whether alien or a forgotten Earthborn species, intervened in our evolution, leaving us as living evidence of their design? Today, as we edit genes with CRISPR and dream of designing life, we may already be walking the same path. We, too, are becoming creators. If we are capable of reshaping DNA, how much more advanced could a civilization millions of years older be? What if they shaped us in the same way we shape crops, animals, or even artificial intelligence today? And what if, just as we create AI in our own image, they once created us in theirs? The human genome remains an unfinished riddle. Scientists can map it, but mysteries linger. Sudden evolutionary leaps, unexplained sequences, and the strange fact that intelligence like ours is so rare. If Earth has hosted civilizations before, perhaps they left their legacy not in ruins, but inside us, in the very code that defines our being. We are not just made of stardust. We may be carrying the fingerprints of those who shaped the stars themselves. And maybe, just maybe, when we finally unlock the last secrets of our DNA, we won't just learn about evolution. We'll learn about our designers. Scattered across the Earth are structures so vast, so precise, and so mysterious that they seem to defy the abilities of the civilizations that built them. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the stone heads of Easter Island, from Machu Picchu in the Andes to the enigmatic ruins of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, these ancient marvels are more than just stone and craftsmanship. They are whispers across time, messages carved into the earth itself, perhaps left behind by civilizations before us, or by beings who wish to guide us. The pyramids of Giza, for example, are aligned with uncanny precision to the cardinal points of the compass, and some researchers note that their placement seems to mirror the stars in Orion's belt. How could a civilization thousands of years ago, without telescopes or satellites, achieve such perfection? Were these alignments simply the result of remarkable observation skills, or did they inherit advanced knowledge from a forgotten source? Some suggest that these monuments were not just tombs, but celestial markers, giant messages linking Earth to the heavens. Across the ocean, the stone city of Machu Picchu sits perched high in the Andes. Its stones fitted so precisely together that even a knife blade cannot slip between them. The techniques used remain a puzzle. Some of the stones weigh more than 100 tons, yet they were transported and placed without modern machinery. Were the builders guided by a higher knowledge, or perhaps inheritors of skills from an earlier lost civilization? Göbekli Tepe is another enigma. Dated to nearly 12,000 years ago, it is considered the world's first temple complex, built before farming, cities, or writing. Massive stone pillars carved with animals and symbols rise from the earth, far older than Stonehenge or the pyramids. Why would hunter-gatherers, supposedly primitive, create something so advanced? It suggests that civilization may have deeper roots than history admits. Could Göbekli Tepe be evidence that knowledge was passed down from a forgotten age, or even from beings who wanted humanity to rise? Then there are the Moai of Easter Island, gigantic stone heads, many buried up to their shoulders, their full bodies only recently revealed. These statues face inland, as if watching over the island's people, and their construction remains baffling. What culture, isolated in the Pacific, could create and move such giants? Some legends speak of ancestors with supernatural powers, of gods, who taught them to carve and raise the stones. Were these merely myths, or echoes of an encounter with something greater? Even in Europe, the stones of Stonehenge still cast shadows of mystery. Aligned with the solstices, it functions as both a calendar and a temple. Yet the methods of its construction and the reasons behind it remain elusive. To build it required knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and geometry. How did prehistoric people acquire such knowledge? Was it trial and error, or was it guidance? What unites these sites is not only their grandeur but their strange connection to the stars. Time and again, monuments across cultures are aligned with constellations, solstices, and equinoxes, as if the builders were not only honoring the heavens but pointing us toward them. Could it be that these sites are part of a global map, a coded message left by an earlier civilization or by visitors from beyond our world? And then there is the question of energy. Some researchers claim that these ancient sites were not just ceremonial, but functional, harnessing energy from the earth and sky. Pyramids, with their shapes, may have acted as power generators. Stone circles may have amplified frequencies. While mainstream science remains skeptical, the idea lingers. What if these monuments were part of a technology we no longer understand? Legends from every continent speak of gods, sky beings, or teachers who descended to earth and shared wisdom, how to farm, how to build, how to live. Could these legends be distorted memories of encounters with an advanced civilization? If so, the monuments we see today may not just be works of art, but the fingerprints of those encounters, preserved in stone for us to find thousands of years later. When we look at these wonders, we are looking at puzzles, clues to a past that may not have been ours alone. If another civilization came before us, or if visitors from the stars once walked among ancient peoples, the signs would be in the places they touched most deeply. The monuments that still stand today, defying time, daring us to solve their mystery. Perhaps one day we will decode the full message hidden in these stones. Until then, they remain silent guardians of a forgotten history, reminders that Earth's story is far older and far stranger than we have been taught. Beneath the waves lies a world that is still largely unknown to us. More than 70% of Earth is covered by water, yet we have explored only a small fraction of the ocean floor. What secrets lie hidden in the deep? Could the answers to humanity's oldest mysteries be resting silently under layers of water, sand, And time? Many believe that if there was once a civilization before us, or visitors who shaped the course of our world, their traces may now be found not on land, but beneath the oceans. Legends from nearly every culture tell of great cities swallowed by the sea. The most famous, of course, is Atlantis, described by the philosopher Plato as a powerful and advanced civilization that vanished in a single day and night of disaster. For centuries, people dismissed Atlantis as myth, yet discoveries around the globe have made us wonder if such stories hold truth. Off the coast of Japan, at Yonaguni, divers have found enormous stone structures resembling terraces, steps, and pillars. Some argue they are natural formations, but others insist they are the ruins of a lost city, one that may have existed long before recorded history. If true, it would mean civilization is far older than we currently believe. In India's Gulf of Cambay, sonar scanning has revealed vast geometric patterns, resembling streets and foundations, buried beneath the sea. Some scientists argue that these formations could be the remnants of an ancient urban settlement, one that dates back thousands of years before the Indus Valley civilization. If verified, it would rewrite history, pushing back the timeline of human cities by millennia. The question then arises, who built it and how? Were they early humans with knowledge we have underestimated? Or was this knowledge passed to them by something greater? The Caribbean too whispers of mysteries below. Strange, straight-lined formations resembling roads or walls have been found beneath the waters near the Bahamas. Some divers even claim to have seen massive stone blocks, hinting at structures far older than known civilizations. Could these be remnants of a culture that thrived before rising seas drowned their world? Or are these yet another chapter in the forgotten story of humanity, erased not by time but by the relentless tides? What is striking about these underwater discoveries is how they align with the flood myths told across cultures. Nearly every ancient society speaks of a great deluge that destroyed the world, sparing only a few who carried knowledge forward. Could these myths be memories of real events, global floods that erased civilizations, leaving only whispers of their existence behind? And if so, were those civilizations ours, or were they someone else's, beings who came before us? Some researchers suggest that the ocean floor may hide more than just ruins. It may conceal entire technologies lost to time. If an advanced civilization once existed, their cities and tools may now rest beneath layers of silt, unreachable to us. The oceans could be graveyards of forgotten greatness, waiting to be rediscovered. But what if these ruins are not only human? Could they belong to beings who visited Earth long ago, establishing outposts beneath the waves, only to abandon them, or perhaps remain hidden, even now? Strangely, reports of unidentified underwater objects, craft that move with incredible speed and agility beneath the sea, have emerged in modern times. If true, these might be linked to ancient presences that once inhabited Earth's oceans. Perhaps the seas are not simply a graveyard of forgotten civilizations, but a domain still occupied by forces we do not understand. The possibility that the ocean hides the history of Earth's first great civilizations, or visitors from beyond, reminds us how fragile our understanding truly is. We often look to the stars for signs of life, yet perhaps the answers lie right here, below our feet, beneath the endless blue. If another civilization once walked this earth, their final chapters may be written not on land, but in the depths of the oceans, preserved in silence until the day we uncover them. The ocean floor is Earth's final archive, a vast and hidden library of stone, sand, and mystery. Whether it holds the ruins of Atlantis, the secrets of forgotten peoples, or the remnants of something not of this earth, it is a reminder that our story is not as complete as we think. Every dive, every discovery, brings us closer to knowing not only who we are, but who might have come before us. For as long as humans have told stories, myths have carried secrets wrapped in wonder. These tales, passed down through generations, often seem fantastical, worlds of gods, giants, floods, and vanished kingdoms. Yet behind their colorful words may lie traces of real history. What if myths are not mere imagination, but fragments of memories, distorted by time? And what if some of these memories belong not to our own civilization, but to another that came before us? Take, for example, the flood myths. Nearly every culture on Earth, Mesopotamia, India, Greece, China, even the tribes of the Americas, speaks of a great deluge that destroyed nearly all life. How is it possible that such similar stories appear across the globe in societies separated by oceans and centuries? One explanation is coincidence, but another is far more intriguing: that these stories recall an actual catastrophe that wiped out an earlier civilization. Survivors, scattered and few, may have preserved the memory of their fall in the form of myth, so that it would never be forgotten. Then there are myths of gods descending from the sky. Ancient Sumerians spoke of beings known as the Anunnaki, who came to Earth and shared knowledge with humankind. In India, the Vedic texts describe flying craft, vimanas, that carried the gods across the heavens. Even in Mesoamerican traditions, the god Quetzalcoatl was said to have arrived from the stars, bringing wisdom and order. Were these simply the products of rich imagination? Or could they be distorted accounts of contact with beings who shaped our path? Or perhaps remnants of a civilization whose technology appeared godlike to later humans? Legends also tell of hidden cities, places of light and power lost to time. Shambhala, Hyperborea, Lemuria, names whispered in myth that evoke civilizations said to have flourished before history began. Some describe these places as centers of great knowledge, destroyed or hidden away after disasters, only remembered in fragments of story. Could these lost worlds be distorted recollections of actual societies, erased from the surface of the earth, perhaps even existing before our own? What makes these legends particularly striking is how they overlap. Stories of sky beings, great floods, lost lands, and civilizations swallowed by the sea appear in cultures separated by distance, language, and era. It is almost as if humanity is sharing fragments of a forgotten memory, retelling it in different forms but pointing back to the same origin. Modern researchers sometimes dismiss these myths as symbolic tales, but symbols themselves carry meaning, and symbols do not arise without root. When every continent speaks of the same themes, destruction, survival, visitors from above, it suggests that there is more at play than simple imagination. Perhaps myths are humanity's subconscious archive, a coded record of events too ancient for history books. And what if those events were not ours? What if they were the final echoes of a world that lived, thrived, and died long before our first villages formed? A world that left behind stories not through books, but through whispers, carried across generations as cautionary tales of power, loss, and memory. If this is true, then myths may be our greatest evidence of forgotten civilizations. They are not proof, but they are hints, breadcrumbs scattered across time. Each flood story, each tale of gods descending, each legend of sunken lands may be fragments of a larger puzzle. One that, if pieced together, could reveal that Earth's first civilization was not us, but another, one that shaped us with its memory before disappearing into history's shadows. In this way, myths are not just stories. They are time capsules, windows into a past that is far older and stranger than we imagine. When we listen carefully, we hear not only the voices of our ancestors, but perhaps the echoes of those who walked this earth long before we claimed it as our own. There are moments in archaeology when a discovery defies all logic. An object is unearthed, and instead of fitting neatly into the timeline of human progress, it raises questions that our textbooks cannot answer. These are the so-called out-of-place artifacts, pieces of technology that seem to exist thousands, even millions of years before humans were capable of creating them. They are dismissed, debated, and often buried again, but they whisper of something extraordinary, that perhaps advanced knowledge once existed on Earth, far older than our own civilization. Consider the Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece. At first glance, it looked like corroded bronze fragments, but upon closer study, researchers realized it was a machine, an ancient analog computer built more than 2,000 years ago. Its gears, precision, and complexity were unlike anything else of its time. Historians struggle to explain how such advanced engineering appeared so suddenly, with no clear trail of development before it. Some suggest it was a forgotten invention of genius minds, while others wonder if it was knowledge passed down from something older, something lost. Then there are even stranger finds. In 1885, miners in Austria discovered a cube of iron encased in coal that was millions of years old. Known as the Salzburg cube, it looked strikingly artificial, with sharp edges and precise lines. If the dating is correct, how could such a thing exist long before humans walked the earth? Was it a natural oddity, or a remnant of technology belonging to a civilization erased from memory? The Baghdad battery is another puzzle. Clay jars with copper and iron rods that many believe were ancient galvanic cells, capable of generating electricity. While mainstream historians argue they were used for simple purposes like plating, others ask, how did people 2,000 years ago stumble upon the principles of electricity? Knowledge we did not rediscover until the modern era. Even architecture itself tells a story of mystery. The Great Pyramids of Egypt, the stone temples of Pumapunku in Bolivia, and the colossal blocks of Baalbek in Lebanon seem almost superhuman in their construction. The precision of cuts, the scale of the stones, and the alignment with celestial bodies make some wonder whether these sites were not simply monuments but machines, designed with knowledge of energy, astronomy, and engineering that surpasses what we assume ancient humans knew. Were they echoes of a technology that belonged not to us, but to those who came before? Beyond artifacts, there are legends of weapons and machines that sound eerily like science fiction. In the Indian epics, the Mahabharata describes celestial weapons, beams of light and explosions that darken the skies. To modern ears, they sound like descriptions of nuclear blasts or advanced energy weapons. Skeptics argue these are metaphors, but believers see them as evidence that a civilization with unimaginable technology once existed, only to vanish after a great catastrophe. The very idea unsettles us because it challenges our sense of being the first, the most advanced, the pinnacle of Earth's story. If there was another civilization before us, their technology may have risen, flourished, and been erased by time. All that remains are fragments, an odd machine, a misplaced object, a myth that sounds too much like memory. And yet, this possibility fits a larger pattern. Civilizations rise and fall. Empires collapse. Knowledge is burned. Inventions are forgotten. If this can happen in a few thousand years, why not over tens of thousands? If humanity disappeared today, much of our technology, our buildings, machines, satellites, would be gone in just a few thousand years, leaving behind only scattered traces. Millions of years from now, who would believe we once existed? Perhaps that is the answer to these mysteries. Perhaps what we find in coal, in stone, in ancient ruins, are the remnants of a story much older than ours. A story where Earth was not empty before us, but home to minds and hands that shaped, built, and dreamed, only to be swept away. We inherit their echoes through strange artifacts and impossible machines, fragments of technology that feel like whispers from a forgotten world. If true, then technology is not a linear journey from primitive to advanced, but a cycle, rising, falling, and rising again. And we may not be the first to walk this path. When we imagine lost civilizations, we often picture grand monuments, massive cities, or spectacular technologies. We expect evidence to be clear, visible, and undeniable. But what if most of the proof has already slipped through our fingers? The truth is that time itself is a destroyer. Wind, water, earthquakes, floods, and volcanic eruptions slowly erase the marks of human hands. Even our modern cities, if abandoned today, would crumble to dust within just a few thousand years. Skyscrapers would collapse, glass would shatter, and metals would rust into nothingness. In the span of millions of years, almost everything we built would vanish, except for a few scattered remnants buried deep underground. This idea forces us to consider, if another civilization had risen on Earth long before us, what traces would we realistically expect to find? The answer is very little. Their tools, homes, and machines might be long gone. Their records, written on fragile materials, would have dissolved into the soil. Even massive stone structures could have been worn down until they look like nothing more than natural cliffs and hills. Nature has a way of reclaiming everything. We may already be walking past the ruins of a forgotten world without realizing it. What makes this even more likely is the way our planet constantly recycles itself. Earth is alive with shifting tectonic plates. Entire continents rise, fall, and disappear beneath the oceans. If a civilization had lived tens of millions of years ago, Their cities could now be at the bottom of the sea, crushed under miles of rock. When we dig for fossils, we find the bones of dinosaurs because they are scattered and preserved by chance. But how many species never fossilized at all? The same could be true for ancient civilizations. Only fragments survive, and most of their story is erased. Even the things we think would last forever, like plastic or nuclear waste, may not endure as long as we imagine. Over immense stretches of time, sunlight, pressure, and heat can break down even the strongest materials. In fact, if our own civilization were to vanish tomorrow, scientists estimate that within 10 million years, the Earth might show almost no trace of us. All that would remain would be odd chemical signatures in the soil, strange isotopes in rocks, and perhaps a few unrecognizable fossils of our cities. If this is true for us, then surely it could be true for others who came before. And then there is the question of what we choose to dismiss. Archaeology is full of anomalies, objects that do not fit the timeline, tools found in rock layers that seem far too old, advanced carvings that appear in places where there should have been no technology. Often, these finds are brushed aside as errors or misinterpretations. But what if they are glimpses of the truth? What if the reason they don't fit is because our timeline is incomplete? We may be missing evidence not because it doesn't exist, but because we are not prepared to recognize it when we see it. There are also myths and oral traditions to consider. From the stories of Atlantis to the flood legends told in nearly every culture, human history is filled with whispers of destruction and rebirth. Could these myths be memories, passed down over generations, of civilizations that rose and fell long before ours? We tend to dismiss myths as imagination, but again and again, myths have been proven to contain kernels of truth. Troy was once thought to be only a legend until it was discovered. What if other myths are waiting for the same revelation? It is also possible that the evidence is not just on Earth. If an ancient civilization existed, they may have left behind traces in places we rarely look, on the moon, beneath Mars's surface, or even in orbit. After all, we are already sending satellites and spacecraft into space, leaving behind artifacts that might survive long after our species. Millions of years from now, if another intelligent life form studied Earth, they might find a lonely probe drifting in the void and wonder about the beings who built it. Could we, in turn, find evidence like that from a civilization that predates us? The unsettling reality is that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because we have not found undeniable proof of an ancient, advanced civilization does not mean it never existed. It only means we may not have been looking in the right way, or that time has been too thorough in its erasure. What is gone may truly be gone forever. But then again, every so often, something strange surfaces. A mysterious artifact, an impossible ruin, a forgotten myth that feels too vivid to be fantasy. And so the mystery endures. We search deserts, oceans, and mountains, knowing that most of the story will remain hidden. But in the smallest discoveries, a shard of pottery, a carving, a tool, we may glimpse the shadow of something greater, something that reminds us that perhaps long ago, Earth was not only home to us, but to others before us. And if their evidence is gone, then our challenge is not only to search harder, but to imagine more deeply. Because the greatest evidence we might be missing is the possibility itself. As we reach the end of this journey, one thought lingers. What if we are not the first, but simply the latest chapter in Earth's vast story? The ground beneath our feet may already hold the whispers of forgotten civilizations, erased by time, waiting for us to listen. The oceans may guard secrets we have yet to uncover, and the skies may hold echoes of builders long gone. Every fossil, every shard of stone, every unexplained artifact could be more than a mystery. It could be a message. Perhaps we are not alone in history. Perhaps Earth has been home to many dreamers before us, each rising, falling, and leaving behind only shadows. And so, we look forward with wonder, asking not only who came before, but also who might come after? Because the greatest mystery of all may not be the past we have lost, but the future still waiting to be written.